my beauty friends. So glad you're here today, and I am so glad that she is here today. So I think I probably got my palette later than everybody else did, or my Pat McGrath order. That's alright, that's alright. I'm over it. My hair looks like Fraggle Rock today. I'm over that. Deep breaths. Alright, hello. If you guys are new here, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, tap the bell, so you can be notified of all of the new videos, upcoming releases, and just fun makeuping times. So today, I got her. I have to be honest, I did get the Divine Rose 2. I did not get the first one. I was not a fan of the first one. I don't know. Everybody loved it. Everybody raved about it. And I was just like, meh. Then when I saw the Divine Rose 2, when I saw this, I knew I had to have this just because the colors were so beautiful. But then also, like, yeah, I got the limited edition packaging. Don't be jealous. You could kind of be jealous, that's all right. But anyway, so since everybody and their sister has already done a review on the Pat McGrath palette, I thought that maybe today what I might do is sort of do like comparison swatches to see if we could create these shades, this 6-pan palette, these shades from other palettes, if we really need to have this. Like, it's another rose palette. Do we really need this, Mother Pat? Do we really need another Mother Pat rose palette? So that's kind of what I want to figure out for myself. I'm hoping I didn't waste $65. First, I just kind of want to get into swatching and take a look and see if these shades are really that unique where you have to buy this palette. Like, can you just get away with having the Divine Rose 2 or other Pat McGrath palettes? Are these shades different? Are they the same? So we're going to get into that. It's going to be a little bit more of a detailed video, but then we will create a look to sort of test it out and see, because some of the shades, I believe there are, hold please, yeah, because some of the shades are actually like a different formula. So there is there's two mattes, the rose hedonistic rose, which is a rose plum matte, and then there's the peach dusk, which is actually not just a regular matte, it is a coral satin matte. Then there is the Scandalous, the copper metallic, the Fuchsia Flame, which is a warm fuchsia duochrome, and a golden honey, which is an antique gold metallic. So shimmers, we've got some metallics. So the formulas are a little bit different from just like the regular matte formulas that are in her palette. So I'm not even going to go into detail. The palette launched, it's already out. I don't know if it's sold out yet. It did retail for $65. I'm sure you guys are all aware of that. Like, I don't need to tell you information about Pat McGrath. I'm blabbing on. Anyways, let's get right into these comparison swatches, and then we will create a look. And here she is, a little bit more up close. And again, the shades are Pink Champagne, Peach Dusk, Fuchsia Flame, Hedonistic Rose, Scandalous, and Golden Honey. And I think like the two shades that really just were like, yes, you have to get this, is the Fuchsia Flame and the Peach Dusk. Those two shades, I was just like, I have to get this palette. And if you guys also are aware, like, this is new. She just started doing this type of open palette top with the magnetic. She also did this with, I believe it was the Star Wars collection, but in the past they've always been the trifold layout. So, which I actually like, a lot of people are happy. Like, I actually really like the trifold. I don't know why, I just think it's like a little, like, you know, you open it up and I don't know, it's like a jewelry box or something. I've always liked, and I like how like you can keep it rubber banded shut. I don't know, call me old-fashioned, but I've always liked the trifold. But a lot of people are like really happy that she decided to do this type of design instead, and it does give like the packaging does look a little bit more like shiny versus the matte cardboard that she used to do with these. Now there's like a plastic, some kind of coating that makes it shiny, and again, it's magnetic, so for all of those people who get really into like the packaging and stuff. I mean, and can we just talk about the packaging? I do think this is beautiful. And as with the Divine Rose, and I do feel like that it was like a selling point to me with the rose palettes. It's just like the packaging is gorgeous, as with all Pat McGrath palettes, but I feel like, I don't know, these just like look so good. You could take tons of Insta photos, like, you know, have this in the background, and it's just gonna add to like any ambiance of a room or decoration or whatever. So did I just swatch my hand today? Yeah. I think I'm just gonna swatch on my hand. So first I'm going in with this color right here, the pink champagne. Don't mind the nails, you guys, don't mind the nails. Is that big enough? Okay, we can barely see that. Can we see that? Okay, so this is the pink champagne color, and I tried really hard to find some shades in my collection that compared to this, and I really was having a hard time. First we'll go in with the Divine Rose 2, which I didn't really see anything that was like really similar, but a lot of people wanted to see this Skin Show Rose Opal. Is that what it's called? Skin Show Rose Opal, and how it compared from the Divine Rose 2 to the Rose Decadence. So I am just going to swatch that, and as you guys can see, they're really not the same at all. They're very different. This is a lot more white and less opaque, so that was not definitely a match in my opinion. Okay, and then I was thinking that this Daydream shadow in the Huda Nude palette might be, it kind of looks like it can be a match. I haven't tried it. We're gonna do it right now. See, the thing is, it's like a completely different texture though. But yeah, so again, they are sort of similar. The Huda is more like metallic. It's got sort of more of a sheen, whereas the Pat is kind of more just like shimmer shade. The undertones are very similar, but it's not going to give you that same effect on the lid. It's just not. And I feel like the Huda also has like a deeper undertone. I don't know, they are very close in like the color, but the texture and the application completely different. And like I said, I'm just kind of trying to find things that I think could be similar shades to this Pat McGrath Rose Decadence, to see if like it's actually something that you can get away with not getting, or if we actually, you know, need it in our collection. So the next thing that you guys had asked me, oh, there goes one of my other Pat McGrath palettes. Don't you love it when $100 just goes down the drain because you're unorganized when you're making videos? The other palette you guys wanted me to take a look at and compare was the Vintage Rose. Was the Vintage Rose palette compared to the Rose Decadence palette? And I don't know, I guess some of the shades kind of look like they could be similar, but the Vintage Rose has like green. It's completely different in that aspect. The most that I could think of is maybe like this Blossom color would be sort of similar to the Pink Champagne. A lot of people wanted to see a comparison with this, and that is completely different. The Huda Nude palette was closer than this, yeah. That is not the same at all. That's like more of a silver white. Yeah, not at all the same. And then I'm trying to think if I have any shades that like Juvia's Place, they come out with really nice shimmers. Let me just see. I've got to pick up actually some more of their palettes. It's been a while. I don't know what this shade is called, but this is the Zulu palette by Juvia's Place. This might be sort of close, so I'm gonna swatch this for you guys. That is pretty close. It's pinker. It's pinker. It's got more of like a hot pink, but the gold is there. Up close, it's more similar. I would have to say out of all of the shades, this is probably the closest. So you might be able to get away with using that as a dupe for the pink champagne color. Okay, so next up we have this coral satin matte shade called Peach Dusk. And there is like a little bit of sheen. It's definitely not just a regular matte. And the only shade that I can see that like might be, could be very similar is this Naked Blush out of the Divine Rose 2. The first Divine Rose palette, I didn't see anything. This could be very close though. Okay, so this is actually more orange. Yeah, it's not the same at all. This is like, the Divine Rose 2 has more of like a orange undertone, and this is more kind of rose corally. Yeah, those actually I thought would be a total hit. Like I thought they were actually the same shade when I went to buy the Rose Decadence palette, but they're not. They are definitely different shades and different undertones, and they would definitely look way different on the eye. So in the Vintage Rose, this Rust Rose looks like it actually could be, it could be similar. Let's check this one out. No, that's like deeper, just like the Divine Rose 2 palette. It's a more of a, just more deeper, a deeper color. And that was Rust Rose from the Vintage Rose palette. We are striking out with this one. Let's see, what else do I have? And keep in mind, like if you guys have seen, you know, this is just from my personal collection of palettes, and I honestly did not have time to go through every single one. I just kind of did an eye and saw what I thought might work. I'm still trying to figure out what might work, but you guys could have palettes that I don't have at home that you found was like a perfect match. So if that's the case, definitely let me know in the comments below. Okay, so this is the Sugar Rush BU eyeshadow palette. I'm going in with this shade right here. Okay, that did look like it was close. It's not close. I'm gonna now try this shade. I think it's called Be Creative. It's a little bit darker. We're gonna try that. And that's my little pumpkin barking away. None of these are a straight on, I mean, they're close, but they're not the same shade for sure. They're more orangey. I don't know, this Peach Dusk is really pretty. It's got like a silver undertone almost. I don't know if it's silver or like that pearl white undertone. It is a really pretty shade. All right, let me try one more thing. I'm gonna go in with this Chasing Your Dreams palette. There is a shade in there, I forget what the name of it is. You Can, okay. It's this shade right here. I think Be Bold would be too dark. So I'm gonna go in with You Can. This could be close. I'm excited. I'm getting excited. That's darker too. I think this is the closest of all of them maybe. But it's definitely darker, and it's a pure matte. It's not, I think because this formula is like that satin matte, it's gonna be really hard to find an exact spot on dupe. I mean, and when you look at the Rose Decadence palette, you don't think of them as like complex shades. Like I thought for sure I could do swatch comparisons and be able to, you know, be like, no, we don't need another rose palette. I don't know. We'll have to see. But so far there was not. The other shade I thought was more similar. This, I can't find anything. All right, this next shade, I don't even know how to pronounce this one. Hedonistic. Am I just like that? Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I pronounce this shade? So I'm going in with this one right here, the hedonistic. I need help pronouncing whatever it's called. I'm swatching it right here. I'm going to try out the Extreme Burgundy shade from the Divine Rose 2. And I just realized I forgot my favorite shade, which is the Fuchsia Flame. We had to do that one. Okay, so that is nowhere close to the Decadence Rose shade. Not at all. Let's try Juvia's Place. This from the Afrique palette, this Bin 2, looks like it could be a match, maybe. Okay, so Bin 2 from Juvia's Place is pretty darn close. It's not quite the same, but it is pretty close. And let's just go in with the Vintage Rose, because there is a shade that looks like it could be. We're going to go in with Velvet Petals, that deep burgundy shade. Oh, this is way off. That's not a match at all. I'm going to just do Rust Rose, just in case that is like closer. And, ooh. And both of those are just not the same at all. A lot of people thought this Vintage Rose palette was very close to the Rose Decadence, but it's not turning out to be the case at all. I kind of thought, oh yeah, because I had forgot about the Vintage Rose palette for a minute, and I was like, you know what, but they are really similar, but so far the shades are completely different. So I think the Afrique, the Juvia's Place palette, was the closest match, and that was not even completely spot on. Okay, and we cannot forget about my favorite shade, which is Fuchsia Flame. It's just such a pretty color, you guys. My first thought is the Rose Seduction shade in the Divine Rose 2. Is the shade right here. But now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it's gonna be similar. At first, I thought that they were like the exact same shade. They're very close. They are very close, but Rose Seduction is not nearly as like chromatic, metallic looking as the Fuchsia Flame. There's more purple in the Fuchsia Flame, whereas this is just kind of a bright pink. They are close though. I thought that they were the same shade at first. I was like, so is this Decadence just the same shades recycled in a smaller package for people or what? But they're not, so I cannot think. I'm gonna try to go in with this Rose Gold shade in the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Remastered. I'm going in with Rose Gold right there. That's more orangey, completely different. And then, don't mind my palette, it's severely bleeding up. I'm gonna try the Fling shade. And those are both completely different. And I'm just looking at my Viseart palette. This is the basically Addict palette. And I'm gonna go in with this shade here called Authentic. That looks like it could be a similar match. Okay, this is a little bit closer. It's still more of like a copper. It's darker in copper. It doesn't have that bright pink in it. Alright, now I'm going in with this shade called Scandalous from the Decadence Rose palette. This is like an orange, sort. I don't even know. It's kind of like an orange copper shade. This is a really nice shade for like fall, Halloween. I do have a ton of shades I think that I could find that match this. Going in with Dirty Talk with the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. That is a pretty dead on. They're basically the same shade. I think they're very close. That's definitely spot on. There's also this shade from the Sugar Rush, which I showed you guys before. I'll just do this one again. That is very similar as well. Going back in with the Vintage Rose. And I'm using the shade called Copper Rose. The Vintage Rose shade is like more muted. It's more of a pearl. And the Decadence Rose is more of a copper, I would say. Okay, now I'm going into the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk. And I'm going in with this shade here called Blood Moon. Blood Moon is just a little bit brighter, but they are similar. There is another shade in here called Turkish Delight. Okay, Turkish Delight's a little bit more off. I'd have to say Blood Moon is definitely the closer shade. Turkish Delight's a little bit more pink. From the Adrigine palette is the shade here called Deja Vu. This could be very close. This looks like it might be very, very close. And keep in mind, like, I'm just going for color. This is not to say the quality of any of these other palettes is the same quality as Pat's at all. That's not what I'm just basically trying to see, you know, if we can save some money here. Those two are very close. I think the Naked Heat might have been the closest one. That was pretty spot on. So now we're going in with the Golden Honey shade right here. Okay, so this is Golden Honey, and I'm going in with the Bronze Temptation Pat McGrath palette. And they're actually all completely different. What other Pat McGrath do I have a gold? There's a lot of gold in her palettes, so... Okay, we've got some golds in this one. This is the Dark Star palette. We'll try both of these golds. Golden Honey is the one in the middle. And as you can see, those are all different too. I mean, they're similar, but they are different. Let me see if there's any golds in the Sublime palette. There's this gold. This is a different texture though. This is a different kind of formula. Oh yeah, that's completely different. That's the Sublime palette. We'll try these two golds. Oh, and you know what? These two shades might be similar to Scandalous. So we'll go back. Okay, so these are the golds from the Metamorphosis, and Golden Honey's in the middle. Completely different golds. But while I've got this palette open, I do just want to swatch these two copper shades. The two that are in the middle right there, compared to Scandalous. Okay, so these are all completely different. These two are closer. These two right here. I would say those are pretty close, but still, they are not a complete match. That was the Metamorphosis palette. And then going back to Golden Honey, I'm gonna try one more palette. Bear with me, you guys. One more, the Gold of All Golds palette, which is the ColourPop Gold is Good. I forget what the name of it is. They came out, it was last year's holiday collection. The Vintage Rose palette doesn't have a gold shade at all, so good as gold. Alright, so I'm trying O Team. That looks very similar to me. There we go, that's pretty close, but the texture is completely different with the two shadows. I'd have to say the color is closer. but completely different formulas, so it's not even a comparison. Alright, you guys, I think that's all the swatches that I have for you. I'm swatched out. This was crazy. I really thought some of these swatches would be very similar to the Pat McGrath. Some of them were and some of them weren't. So I guess our final factor in determining whether, you know, we need this rose palette is basically to create a look and see how everything turns out. So now on to our look. Okay, so this video is getting really long. We're going to keep this short and simple with this look today. I had to run to the store. I took a shower, so that's why my hair is wet. And yeah, we're just going to get right into it. So I am going to put some P. Louise base on. I wonder if this is a good base. I go back and forth between thinking that I need a base with Pat McGrath shadows and whether I don't. Like, I know I don't need one, but like sometimes it works out better with the base with her shadows and sometimes it doesn't. So no, I'm just for safety precautionary measures, I am gonna apply the P. Louise base and we'll get started with our look. Alright, so first I'm going in with Hedonistic Rose, and I'm just going a little bit above my crease, because I don't really have a crease, because I sort of have hooded eyes. I'm kind of noticing that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the shade, but it feels a little bit kind of chalky, like not the typical buttery smooth matte formula that I'm used to with Pat. I don't know what it is, it's just like a little bit rougher and a little bit more patchier on the eye. I mean, it works, it's nice, but it's not quite as soft as what I'm used to. So I wonder if this is a different matte formula too. If you guys know, let me know in the comments down below. Alright, so I guess I am going to go in with Peach Dusk right above that. Alright, now I'm going to go in with this pink champagne color in the middle of, or in the inner corner. Lid area. And now I'm going to go in with Fuchsia Flame. And I do have to say, Fuchsia Flame was the reason that I ended up buying this Pat McGrath palette. I'm just sort of going a little bit diagonal, a little bit on top of the pink champagne. And then right in the middle of the lid, I'm going to go in with Golden Honey. Just a tiny bit, just to sort of add more dimension to the lid. Alright, I'm just sort of blending everything together. I don't want any harsh lines. I'm thinking maybe the Hedonistic Rose was a little too dark. I don't know. Okay, so for under my eye, I'm just gonna go in with Golden Honey, I think. I do feel like these shimmer shades in this palette are not as smooth as what I'm used to from Pet either. I don't know. It's really hard to tell with just one application, but they seem a little bit more flaky and less dense and buttery. And then right under the Gold Honey, I'm going to do just a thin line of Hedonistic Rose. And then right here, I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna put more of that gold shade. Just like that. You know what, just for the heck of it, I might mess up the whole look doing this, but I am gonna go in just a little bit of the Golden Honey, just like that. Alright, so this eye is done. I'm gonna try to attempt to do the same exact thing on the other side and eye. We're gonna put on some foundation, lashes, and we'll be right back for our final look and our final thoughts. Alright you guys, so I threw on some lashes. They're quite big lashes actually. And I kind of cleaned up the bottom a little bit. It was a little too wild for a second, but overall I think this turned out nice. Oh, I forgot to add my Pat McGrath lip. Let's see, I'm going in with the 025 Matte Trance Soft Core. I really actually love this shade, and I do have to say Pat comes out with some beautiful lip formulas, like just effortless. I don't even need to use a brush or anything, they just glide on so nicely. And do I want gloss? You know what, I might as well get some use out of this new gloss that I purchased. This is the Lush Gloss Peach Perversion. Oh, I love the way her glosses smell and just kind of like glide on. They're so pretty. Now I want birthday cake. Okay, so we're getting sidetracked with lips. So overall, my thoughts on this palette are the shades are beautiful and very unique, and even though I bored you guys with all sorts of random palettes to compare it to, I don't believe that the shade Peach Dusk, the shade Golden Honey, or the shade Fuchsia Flame are really duplicate shades that are in any other of her palettes or any of palettes I know about. I could be wrong, but I do think those three shades are very unique and you cannot get those shades anywhere else. The other three, Hedonistic Rose, Scandalous, and Pink Champagne, those were a little bit more mainstream. I was able to find some shades that were pretty close to those. Some of them exact, but some of them just pretty close. So the reason I bought the palette was for the Fuchsia Flame shade and also the Peach Dusk. So in my opinion, I do think that I needed another rose palette, another Pat Mother Rose palette. Do I think you could get away with not having it, especially if you have the Divine Rose 2? Yes, I do. but I also think that the Decadence Rose and the Divine Rose 2 pair perfectly, and if you had all 3 rose palettes, I believe those pair perfectly as well. And I do think that it's you can use this 6-pan palette along with other palettes. I do see myself being able to pull the Fuchsia Flame from the Rose Decadence, go into the Vintage Rose by Gimme Glow, and sort of mix things around. I really would like to do a look like that. As far as this look, I don't know. I think that it turned out pretty darn nice. Some of the shadows, the formula was a little bit off from what I'm used to. This was the first time applying those, so I have to play around with it more. But I did know some differentiation with the formulas compared to the typical pat formulas. Whether that was intentional or not, I'm not sure. I did think that the Hedonistic Rose was a little bit chalky and patchy compared to some of her other mattes. But at the end of the day, I think this look is beautiful, and I really like how all of the shades played out. I just used her palette. I didn't use any other shades from other palettes, and I was able to create this really pretty look. So I hope you guys like this look as well. Let me know what your thoughts are, if you're gonna get it, if you didn't get it, what shades, what palettes you think are very similar. I want to hear it all. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.